Man, these wonderful pocket computers have become so important to us. In fact, mine does so much that this isn't even mine. I'm filming using mine and, gonna use it to run a YouTube channel, or at least sort of half. Our cell phones these days do everything. They're deeply integrated to our lives, including our social lives. And can you imagine what it would be like if someone was taking yours away from you because you were in trouble? And I'm here to tell you, it wouldn't be too fun. Hello, I'm Dr. Brett Pearce, child psychologist, and I'm here today to talk with you about another kind of tough subject, and this one's mostly for you parents. I'm here to talk with you about cell phones and why taking a cell phone away, particularly from a teenager, should never be used as a punishment. I know, probably if you follow me and have listened to my other videos, you're going to be like, great, what other thing is he going to take away from me today that I'm not allowed to do now? But this one really is important. Cell phones in the year, 2019 are critical. They're almost as important a possession as a car. They connect us with all sorts of things. And for teenagers, they can be really critical to how that teenager experiences his or her social life, how the teenager stays afloat with things going on with their friends. It's really important for teenagers to have access to friends. And so it doesn't go well when we decide to take and give a cell phone for a kid, mostly a teenager, because those are, cats jumping around, for a teenager, because they're at a point in their lives where connecting with their friends is really important. And so I've got basically two big reasons why it is really important not to use the cell phone as a punishment or a reward. First reason, it is legitimately very isolating for many teenagers to be without a cell phone, because in the modern age, it is really important for teenagers to have access to social media. I'm not saying unrestricted, total free access at all times without any adult guidance or supervision, but access of some kind, and that's the first big one. The second big one is, yes, you guessed it, punishments don't really do a lot other than sort of engender a lot of resentment. So let's get into the first one. The first reason is that we don't really want to use restricting access to friends and support groups and socialization as a punishment for misbehavior, unless it really logically connects, I guess. And even then, I'm not in love with the idea as a practicing psychologist, I gotta tell you. So, when we're struggling, which is often what is going along with any kind of misbehaviors or problems that we would be tempted to want to use a punishment or a consequence for, what's usually going on is we're having a hard time dealing with feelings, we're having a hard time coping with stress, we're having a hard time with life in general. And this is true for adults, it's true for teenagers, it's true for kids. And can you imagine what it would be like if you were in a situation where you were really struggling and someone said, okay, well, I'm now going to remove your primary access to people that you're close to, particularly friends. It is normal for teenagers to start to seek out friends and groups of friends as kind of their primary emotional relationships for a while. That's normal. And so taking or giving that away as a punishment just isn't the way we want to go. It's frankly overly punitive. It's just too much. And it also sends the wrong message. It makes having access to that important support and that important normal developmental task, which is to say kind of leaving the house a little bit, figuratively and literally, and having access to friends and kind of creating a separate identity, it creates being able to perform a normal developmental task tied into being rewarded or punished. And so I just don't think that that's a great way to go, particularly with a kid who's already struggling, because reaching out to positive peers, reaching out to friends, is a fairly reasonable coping skill for starters. It's also just an important part of anyone's life. The other thing I would like to say in this context is, for those adults who still feel skeptical about this, I would just really encourage you to think, how would I feel? How would I feel if I was struggling at work a little bit and my boss said, well, I'm now going to take away your cell phone for a week and you have to earn it back? You would be not happy. You wouldn't be happy, and you probably would be struggling, understandably, to want to listen to and kind of get behind what your boss was doing in order to try to help you. And getting buy-in is really important when we're trying to help anyone with any kind of problem behaviors or feelings. So that's my first big reason. It is really, really important for people in general, especially teenagers, to have access to their friends. And some of us folks who are from, other generations might say, well, but it's not even real access because it's just over the internet. And I'm here to tell you, well, let's be careful. That's a bit of a generational difference kind of thing. And our young people these days really experience the world and social life in a very different way because of social media. So we just want to be very, very careful. It can be very isolating to teenagers if they don't have a cell phone. So my second reason is that punishments tend to breed a lot of resentment. Almost 99% of the time, with any kind of punishment or consequence, including taking away an iPhone or some other kind of cell phone. I hear there's other kinds out there. No, I'm just teasing. I'm an Apple person, so. But taking away anything from a teenager, it's almost always done in the context in a context that doesn't really fit with the punishment itself. So I can totally understand if maybe something inappropriate was going on with the cell phone that really directly had to do with the cell phone. The cell phone wasn't incidental. So I'm struggling to think of something. I don't know. Maybe your teenager had a fight with a boyfriend or girlfriend and threw the phone across the room, and it, broke. And so, maybe we're not in a rush to replace it because we can't, or we want someone to learn a lesson. In that situation, it makes a lot more sense to me why we would want to sort of go that direction. And it's not about taking it away. It's more about, well, hey, this is kind of what happens when you throw your cell phone across the room. Let's talk about how you could make enough money to get one back, or something along those lines. But usually how we're using these punishments would be something like this. Oh, you got bad grades? I'm taking away your cell phone until your grades come back up. And the problem with that is that it feels way too sort of judicial. Like it just doesn't connect logically with what's going on. Does it make sense that we want to provide some sort of support and guidelines and guidance in order to help the kid get good grades? Of course. But consequences really should have a logical connection with what's happening so that they can provide support. Now, one idea, I suppose, in that kind of a situation, poor grades, and maybe the teen is spending a lot more time than they need to with their cell phone instead of doing their homework. Maybe we come up with an agreement where you get home, you hand me your cell phone for the hour or two that you need to be doing your homework, and then once you're done, I hand it back. That's more of like helping with time management. So it's actually helping to support something. It logically connects. There's a good reason for it to be there. And it seems to provide some sort of support and help in the right direction, rather than being this just kind of arbitrary thing, sort of like a fine or something that's sort of levied on that doesn't necessarily help. So, these are the two big reasons that I really, really strongly think that we should not use cell phones as a reward or a punishment. First of all, it's legitimately very isolating to teenagers these days not to have access to social media, access to text messaging. It's very isolating, and that's not the direction we want to go with a teenager who's struggling. And number two, punishments tend to breed a lot of resentment, and we tend to use punishments in a way that don't logically connect with the situation, and therefore can really breed a lot of resentment for that reason. So, thank you very much for listening. If you enjoyed this video, or at least learned something from it, please do give me a thumbs up. Perhaps consider subscribing by clicking somewhere down there and smash that bell notification for when my next video goes live. This is Dr. Brett Pearce, child psychologist, signing off.